It's and it's an art form in itself, using plugins in general, and so that made me happy. And but that's my long explanation for the genesis of the idea, the requirements for me, and probably a little explanation as for the fans out there and the customers why it's set up the way it is. And in a big way, our 5150 type amp is set up in the same way to make sure that it's always big and fat, because I know the guitar gets skinny up.
Let's talk about the SJ50, which is based off of the 5150.
Yeah.
And again, with this amplifier, I know for me personally, I'm a huge fan of the 5150. That's, for me, that's the tone that gets my ear. To nail this one, and if you'll remember, I had a lot of I wouldn't say input, but I had a lot of thoughts on this particular amplifier, and it's important. It's important to nail these things, and especially in all those beta versions we did. So if you want to talk about, is that the 5150 behind you?
And yes, it is.
Over to your left, my right, and we could talk about that process of the SJ50.
Yeah, so my history with this amp is I remember the year it came out, I had sort of put a query into one of my managers at Bill Graham Management. I think it was Kevin Burns, and I kind of forgot about it. It was just like, oh, Eddie's got an amp. That'd be cool to get one. And then I forgot about it, and I was off doing something. He calls me one day, and he says, hey, that amp you wanted is in. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about, right? And he goes, that 5150 thing, whatever. So I thought, oh, cool. I didn't know what to expect. I just thought Eddie's like the coolest thing, so he's got to have the amp must be cool, So when I started using that in the studio, one of the funniest things happens is you stand in front of it with the engineer, you turn it on, then the thing is totally out of control. I mean, it's just the hot rod dream, and it's thumping and pumping, and every guitar player goes like, yes, I'm in heaven, Engineers are like, whoa, what's happening? How am I going to mic that thing,
I know.
Because it's, and I always thought, Marshalls are great for giving you like everything in the kitchen sink. They just throw it all out there, which is great for microphone because then you can pick and choose, what you need. But if it's not there, it's not there. You can't make something happen out of nothing, right? So standing in front of that original 5150, I got that same feeling like this is different. It's not a Marshall at all, but it's throwing out so much information. I love it. I bet you could put 6 different microphones and make that thing sound a million different ways. And that was because I just thought it was very rich sounding. And later on, I learned about engineer James Brown at Peavey really being the genius behind how to get that sound, how to give Eddie that attack that he wanted, but also just the super fat, it's just like the notes never stop coming at you. The sound never stops coming out, as well as the hiss and a lot of other things that are a problem with in the real world application of it. But still, it wound up on so many recordings. Just every record, we would bring that one out. And you'd think it was out of control, and then you'd hear the recording back and you go, I don't hear the hiss. I don't hear any of that stuff that you hear when you're demoing it as an amp for a track, because it's somehow all the musical bits just jump through the microphone, and all the other noises and stuff just, they fade in behind the hi-hat and the crash cymbals and reverb and delays and stuff like that. And this was just basic rock music. I mean, this is before the real whatever mathcore, super hard rock stuff was coming in, and there was a lot of tight ensemble gated riffs going on between, an entire band. This was more laid back kind of rock style, but I just always thought the thing could really sing, and you just had to move the mic a certain way to avoid some of the more aggressive bits, and you had like the most beautiful sounding hot rodded amp ever, So it was essential that we get this in there. I thought maybe people were surprised at times that when they'd ask me, oh, what'd you use? Is that some sort of vintage Marshall or some really old pedal? And I'd say, no, it's just went right into the 5150, turned it all the way up and left the room, and let the microphones do it. And very often we would put it through 2 cabinets, and because these old ones are slants, just because the older ones I could find back in '91, they do sound a little different. They don't have that the punch that a straight 4x4 is going to have, but they have other things that are really beautiful. I know that was designed by Jim Marshall purely for aesthetic reasons, not for sound reason. He just wanted the heads to look better sitting on top. But what he did by breaking the baffle was create something else, so he breaks up the array of the typical straight 4x4, and you get a very different sound. So if people are fooling around with AmpliTube in the cabinet selection, they should move those room mics around with the slant cab if they want a remarkably different effect out of the amps, both of the amps that we're talking about. But then the straight with the 75 watt speakers, it's really perfect for it. I know Eddie likes using what he calls 20 watts, but they're really 30 watt speakers and almost like a double grill cloth. But different jobs require different things, and I think that's one of those amps that once he brought it into the world to say this is what I do with it, I think he was pretty shocked with what people did with it. Kind of like Steve with the 7-string. I don't think he knew what the kids were going to do with his 7-string, but my God, what they did with it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.